The CEO of an organization with over 100 employees and about 900 customers and their families, and our students are truly our customers. One of the things that I found to be critical is that there has to be some system coherence. And I can't control the system outside of my school. But within a school, there needs to be coherence. And it's really interesting because when I started teaching 40 years ago, we didn't know jack about research. There wasn't research on how the brain learns and how kids learn and what are the instructional strategies that focus and improve achievement. We didn't know that stuff, but we know it all now. All that research is out there. How to teach kids, how to overcome barriers, how to be successful. And the problem is there's this huge gap between what we know and what we do. And there isn't system coherence. And when it comes, it's from the grassroots level. Let me give you an example. 5 years ago, we had this big aha that our middle school kids, half of them were not reading at grade level. And this is Moanalo Middle School in a very nice community, and half of our kids were not reading at grade level. Okay. You can blame the parents, you can blame the elementary schools, you can do all that, but the fact is the kids are sitting in my classes. And what's happening across Hawaii and across the country is secondary teachers were not trained to teach reading. So they don't know how to teach reading. And so they keep teaching as if the kids could read, and eventually those kids drop out. Maybe not in middle school, but in high school. And so they're not there. They just keep falling further and further behind. So it came to a place, and I visited the Moanalo Gardens Retirement Club. They have quite a nice little club of retirees, and now I'm a retiree. And I took my 10 kids with me, and I said, you know what? We need your help. These kids represent the children of our community. And I asked 4 of those kids to sit down. And I said, you know, these kids are not reading at grade level, and they're not going to make it. And what I'm asking you to do is come and read 1 hour a week with a kid. That's not the only thing that we had to do, though. We had to train our teachers how to teach reading in every content area. And we had to get to a commitment, because a teacher will say, well, you know what, I'm a science teacher, I don't teach reading. Or I'm this, or I'm that. And you know what? Great, but we all teach kids. And so we had to develop this ownership, and then we had to learn how to teach reading. And we found, as we did this, that reading in secondary has a lot to do with thinking. And so we were doing a lot of research about thinking. And adults always tell kids, think, stop and think before you do something stupid, you know? And yet we never really teach kids how to think. And did you guys know that there's actually 8 cognitive processes that your brain uses? You're either categorizing, or you're sequencing, or you're comparing and contrasting. And those of you who are good at this, got good grades on your essays in college, well, we embrace this thinking maps, and giving kids visual organizers and being a language to identify their thinking. So now a 12-year-old in 7th grade can say, I'm thinking sequentially, or I'm thinking categorically, I'm categorizing. And see, to me, I can control the coherence in my school where every teacher is using this in all content areas. Everybody's doing reading comprehension in their content area. This is system coherence. And when you have a school that can function at that level, you're going to have gains in your achievement. And our reading scores went from 53 to 87 in a few years. 87% of our kids reading at grade level. And I'm not saying this to boast, because the power is with the teachers. And the teachers have this huge sense of efficacy because they know they can make the difference for kids. And so, but what happens is, I always ask the question, why are the schools leading the charge? why isn't somebody at the state office giving me support in moving my school, and why don't we have system coherence as a whole DOE? Why does every school have to kind of reinvent the wheel and discover it and do the professional development? The other thing that's a huge concern for me is now, as you look at the solution to not having furlough days, is to give up all the PD days, the professional development days. This is a huge concern for me because there is research that shows there's a direct correlation between organizational learning and student learning. The more the organization is focused on learning, what the research says, how kids learn, what are the instructional strategies, what are the way we can teach the kids think. The teachers are engaged in real dialogue and learning from each other, observing each other, talking about how to improve their practice, all this. This is critical. This is the biggest issue for improving student outcomes. And so I'm really apprehensive. I don't think people get that. I think that we all want the kids back in school, but I also think that professional learning is huge. And there's lots of challenges and lots of barriers, but one of the things I always ask is, where's the system coherence? Why aren't we hearing? Why aren't we on the same page? Why are we doing different things at this school and this school? And everybody's kind of floundering along trying to find their own way. And that's a dilemma for me.